I'm Zach Formby, and I'll be doing my project on the Judiciary branch. The Judiciary branch is made up of a system of both federal and local courts. So that contains the local courts, and then there's the state appellate courts, and there's the high state courts, and then there's also the federal circuit courts, and then on top of that, the very top, is the Supreme Court. The laws we abide by today are either common law or civil law. Now this works its way into the Judiciary branch because it's the laws that make up our country. It's the third branch of government. So these laws are either, as I'll mention later, either established by justices or just by legislation. And then the last part that makes up our judicial branch that's important is the concept of judicial review, which helps our government determine what is constitutionally right and what is constitutionally wrong. So I hope you find this project interesting as we go forward. One example of the judiciary branch is the civil law. The civil law is basically all of the legislative codes and procedures by which most of our government is made. So basically an example of that would be Obamacare that was passed. It was a bill passed in Congress, signed by the president, and it's now in action in our present day lives, so we have to abide by the laws. Another type of law in our judiciary system is common law, which is basically precedents that were handed down from previous judge decisions on certain cases. So an example of that would be the Dred Scott case in 1857 said that that blacks were not humans. And so although this wasn't written down as a law, it was a precedent that was followed by the American government at that time. A big part of the judiciary branch is the concept of judicial review. Now this concept was first thought of in 1803 in the Marbury versus Madison case. Basically, the judicial review states that the Supreme Court can verify whether or not an act of some other branch of government is constitutional or not. An example of the judicial review in action in present day times would be the Affordable Health Care Act that was reviewed by the Supreme Court justices, and by a 5-4 vote it was voted that it is indeed constitutional. The Supreme Court is ultimately a way for the American government to verify what is constitutional and what is not, and this is a big part of what makes up our great country. Overall, our judiciary branch is made up of thousands of different judges and justices, all ranking from very low status to where you would go for your local misdemeanors, or all the way up to the Supreme Court where major matters are held. So, judiciary branch, very big part of the American government, often overlooked because it's overshadowed by the legislative and executive branches, but it's still very important in determining how we live our life as Americans today.